Welcome to the Islamic Library Association. We are dedicated to showcasing Muslims' rich contributions to literature and society while advocating for accurate representation and equity in libraries. Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Khalisah Harris. I am a librarian and the founder of the Islamic Library Association, which advocates for the equitable representation of Islamic faith-based literature. We also highlight the contributions that Muslims make within the literary landscape. We want to thank you for tuning into our conversation. Today we are here with the author and librarian, Theresa Corbin. Theresa Corbin is the co-author of the New Muslims Field Guide and the author of the Islamic Adult Coloring Book. Corbin is a Louisiana native who converted to Islam in 2001. She holds a bachelor's in English literature and a master's in library and information science. She currently works as a research and instruction librarian, and her research interests include critical information literacy, Islamophobia, metacognition, gender issues, and why coffee is so great. She has contributed to About Islam and Al Juma magazines and has also been featured on CNN and the Washington Post. In her spare time, she likes to learn languages but never fluently, bake, DIY, and live theatrically. Her most recent project is trying to understand what the word relax means. Assalamu alaikum, Teresa.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your productive schedule to join us and tell us about who you are, what you do, and what your future plans are.
Mm.
I must say that as someone who was born Muslim and raised within a Muslim community with my parents, your book was still very insightful to hear about converts' stories to Islam. So let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
um, can you tell us what inspired you to co-author the new Muslim Field Guide with Kayla Undayo, and what made you decide to create this resource for new Muslims?
Well, it all started in, like most things do, in the comment section of a Facebook post. I believe that was in like 2015. It was many moons ago. And Kayla and I were just commenting on this post I was talking about new Muslims and like how there needs to be some kind of guide, some kind of book for people like us. Like we had been through um, a lot of our journey so far already, and we were just like, where is this? And then like all good people who write, she and I were working on a blog called Islamwich. She was writing for me on that blog, and we just decided to go ahead and write several posts about the things that you need to know uh, for your journey as you become Muslim and like integrate into the faith and to protect your identity and so forth. So it turned into, I think it was 3 posts, and we're like, there's enough here for a book. And Kayla, I went to Kayla, I was like, hey, you want to do this? And she's like, absolutely, let's do it. So, advice to anybody who sees a gap in literature, that's on you then. You noticed it, your turn to write it.
I definitely agree with that. So you all decided, starting, like you said, Facebook posts through blogs, and decided to write this book. What was the collaboration like with Kayla?
Um, it was so much better than I thought. Like we kind of like, I would slack off for a while and she'd be like, hey, let's do it. She would slack off for a while, like, hey, come on, let's do it. So we were each other's cheerleaders. And um, Kayla is just such a pleasure to work with. She like leaves her ego at the door, and any notes that I had to give her, she was very receptive to. We had very open and honest conversations about like, hey, this is maybe not what we're aiming for. I in that I tried to emulate her, like trying to like, okay, this is not about me, this is about the audience and how we can best tell these stories and lessons and hopefully get that message across. So it was, I don't think, there's no way I could have done it without her. And it was awesome. Yeah.
So, so ultimately, you say that your perspectives and collaborations, you complemented each other.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. And I can't, like, it's been so long now, and like the way that my brain works is like I've done a project, and now all that is yeeted out of my brain. Next thing, so I don't even remember, but I remember like her being of one perspective and me being of another perspective, and like we kind of like hashed it out a little bit and came to understandings like, okay, well, and that's, I think that's a really important thing to do, not just like in life in general, but like in libraries, in academic research, and like just having a diversity of opinions is so important. Like you can only be so logical and so informed from your own perspective.
Yes.
That's just what it is.
So, is that something that you feel you learned from that experience specifically with writing with her, or another part of life?
I just, I always like to work in a team. I feel like I'm best in a team, and I feel like every time I do, I learn a new perspective. And that's really like my goal in life is to try to get, is just like understand people's contexts and understand that, like, hey, what I think is best or my theories on stuff, maybe I need more information on that. So, like, that was a part of, yeah, my always my goal to do that, just collect as many perspectives as I can.
So, would that happen to do with anything with you taking your Shahada at the age of 21?
Absolutely. I think that was the inciting event, if we're going to use a literary term. um, so I had gone to college at the age of 17 and just was so eye opening for me because I grew up in a small town outside of New Orleans, and my elementary school, my high school, my junior high, and my doctor's office, and everything in my life was like within a mile radius. Like as a family, we traveled over the summers. My mom wanted us to get like kind of different perspectives and understandings about life, but just within the U.S., where we're a big family, so we couldn't be like jet setting. So when I went to college, I had like the perspective of like, okay, people do live differently, but like seeing that in like such a plethora of ways, like was really like eye opening to me, and it made me start questioning a lot of things. Like, okay, I'm born in this place, so automatically I like this football team, and my home is the best, and my high school is the best, and blah, blah. But that's not true, right? Objectively, we can like that's just never true.
Hmm.
So it was more of like, what is universal truth? That started my journey of what is universal truth. People live in different ways and observe life and have different perspectives and contexts, and like that turned into a journey of like philosophy and religion. So as I took my college courses, I incorporated a lot of religion courses in it. So I was like, well, what do these people believe? What do those people believe? And my roommate at the time was Baptist, so we had a lot of conversation, a lot of philosophical conversations at the ripe old age of 18, 17, 18. We're just like sitting in our dorm room at night, like, what is the meaning of life and who is Jesus?
Yeah.
So, that was formative for me, just like having her perspective too. And she converted to Islam.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were kind of on the same journey. Like, what does it all mean? And she converted to Islam first. So then it was just a matter of time. Like I just needed the most information, which is always true of me. I'm very hesitant to make a change always to do the thing. But yeah, I did it.
So, well, I'm happy that you did for one.
Alhamdulillah. No, Allah guided me, of course.
Definitely. But what drew you to Islam at such a young age, despite all of the distractions and
hmm
even misconceptions about Islam?
I think at that time there wasn't a lot of information out there about Islam. And like this was like before 9/11. I converted actually a month after 9/11. So I did
Great.
not know what a Muslim was. I didn't know anything about Islam. I was like, I thought maybe these are like Indian people. I think sometimes that can kind of still persist among older generations. It's like an ethnicity type of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I had no idea like anything about it. And like the more I sought, the more I realized there was not a lot of information. And even in religion classes where it specifically said it would talk about Islam, was not covered at all.
Mm,
So that like put the seed in my mind, like what is being hidden from me? What is this?
mm,
And so we actually, my roommate and I actually had to like seek out Muslims to like ask them. And alhamdulillah that we were on a college campus and like there are international students. We had many options of people to talk to with about Islam. And even though like of course Muslims are flawed and everything, it was just like such a logical thing to me, like basic understanding of nature, of who God is, of who the prophets are. That and the key for me, the light switch moment for me was learning the people in the Bible that they talk about were prophets. That was never even like on the module ever in church. Uh, these are prophets we're talking about: Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Jesus. Like we, of course, the belief is Jesus is God in Christianity, and I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic, so um, just understanding all the other people that were being discussed were prophets, and this is the lineage, and they all came with the same message. It was like I can remember I was riding in a car on the interstate, and like a light bulb moment for me was that, like, oh, why is this being kept from me? I felt so betrayed, but at the same, like, because, like, why didn't anybody tell me this?
mhm.
But at the same time, like, free.
Oh, wow. So, how has your faith journey shaped you into the person who you are today?
Um, Everything that I am is because I'm Muslim, alhamdulillah, truly, entirely. You know, I'm gonna get real. I don't think I would be alive
Mm,
if I had not converted. Like, I don't think my path would have been pretty. I
mhm,
know for a fact I would be an alcoholic and not high functioning.
mm,
I'm just like, just to be real with y'all, like I was on that path, and it wasn't pretty. And there have been a lot of struggles. I lost both of my parents. I've struggled with homelessness and, you know, just like a lot of traumatic stuff. So like just understanding that, like, okay, I feel homesick. Well, guess what? This isn't my home. So it makes sense.
mm,
Okay, I feel lonely. Well, guess what? Allah knows. Allah is with me and I can talk to him. Okay, I feel like unloved and lost, but guess what? Allah is there and He has a path for me.
mm,
So, like, everything about my journey has always been like, you know what? If Allah has put this in my path, then I will get through it. I just
mm,
have to, like, keep trucking on and keep knowing what I know
mm.
and never doubt it. Like, at the bare minimum, Allah is Allah and He is always there.
Yes. So, that's very impactful. So, you're talking about how not only why you became Muslim, but what you think your life would have been like if you did not become Muslim. And I read the book, it was amazing. And in that book, you shared a very vulnerable moment about different things, about moments about regretting certain things, such as distancing your family, distancing yourself from your family after becoming Muslim. Several things. Can you elaborate on why that specifically is such an important lesson for new Muslims? So, just in the sense of not only clearing the misconception, some people think
Mhm.
that you have to, but also how to just avoid simple mistakes, even
Yeah,
though they may have good intentions, thinking that they're doing the right thing.
right, right. So never, ever, ever distance yourself from your family. Like, I mean, there are extreme cases in which these people are doing extreme harm, and I believe that you have to protect yourself bodily and spiritually. But most cases are not that, right? I actually saw something the other day where a mom tried to murder her son for converting to Islam. That's one of those cases, but that is not the majority of cases, right? I think what happened with me is that I a few of my relatives cut me off. Like they just said, no, we're disowning you. We can't accept this. So I felt so hurt by that. And that, like, everybody else in my family felt that way. And so I kind of removed myself from them. But that was a huge mistake for me. What new converts need to understand is you will feel hurt. You will feel like you're being abandoned. But if you continue to show up with them, if you continue to be yourself, you are you, and that is a great thing. Islam shouldn't change that, right? It should just refine our character. That's it. So if you keep showing up with that good character that Islam is teaching you and guiding you to, they will accept you. Like the only reason that happened, and with maturity, I understand that the only reason that they rejected me and, basically cut me out of the family, that was just two people, is because they were scared. So if we can just have that understanding and that maturity of like, fear is powerful and it's okay that they feel that way because they love me, right? It was just too painful for them to think that I was going down a dark path because of what was happening in the world. And I can understand that. I converted like immediately after 9/11. I mean, my journey was much longer than that to come to Islam, but that's kind of their perception. Like all of a sudden, Teresa's Muslim because this thing happened, and that's a dangerous and scary thing. So like put yourself in their place. Like they're doing the best they can with the information that they have.
Yeah. Yes. So you're ultimately saying give grace to people, to your family who may
Give
not
grace,
understand
yes,
or fear, and oftentimes they're fearing because they don't understand or don't have enough information to make an
yes,
informed decision. So it's fear. They love you and they want what's best for you. So ultimately give grace and not cut off. But of course, unless you have an extreme type of circumstance.
yes,
I think that's
yes,
amazing um, that you brought that up in the book. Um, I think that's really good to know because I have heard people say, well, what about my family? So I think that's really good. So in the book, you also discussed, some people who become Muslim, some use the term convert, some use the term revert. And you talked about that in your book. Um, but either way, no matter what someone calls themselves, convert or revert, um, do you believe that um, Muslims should be accurately represented in public spaces, such as libraries,
mm,
regardless of what, if you convert, revert, or born into Islam?
right. And I think that is kind of the point. Like convert, revert, from Iraq, from Mexico, from China. Like there's so much diversity within our faith. Like even our opinions are different. Like you're never gonna find one Muslim who completely agrees with another Muslim. Like never gonna happen. Even my co-author and I, we disagreed about a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point. Like we're not a monolith, and that is what people tend to believe. You're a Muslim, you are X, Y, and Z, and basically a two-dimensional character that I have a conception of. And I think that the more we have literature that shows a greater diversity of more perspectives in our public libraries, the more that we can understand the world. There are many people who, like myself, lived and grew up in a 1 mile radius. And if I didn't have the privilege of growing up in a family who had the means to travel a bit, I would never know. I would never know that people are different in different places, but fundamentally we're the same,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is incredibly important to have literature like this and like other people talking about different ways of being Muslim and their different experiences and their different cultures, to show that to the Western world. Even though Islam is a Western religion, like we don't even have that information out there. Like let's just start there. Like Islam was in the West for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just having those perspectives.
Mm-hmm. So culture, you brought that up in the book as well. It's something that I talk about quite often, especially in the library settings. Is there's a difference between culture and religion, and sometimes yes, they do intersect. But
Hmm.
why is it important for literature and people to represent those different cultures within Islam?
Oh yeah, like I said, just to show that we're not a monolith. Islam exists in every continent and every country in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and people practice it differently. Like there was one author who wrote for the About Islam that I also wrote for. I was also an editor, so I had the privilege of reading the work before it was published. So he commented that Islam is like the riverbed. It is the foundation. And the river is like the culture that flows over it. So the rock at the bottom can look red or blue or green, depending on where it is, right? But it is always fundamentally, foundationally the same, even though it may be practiced and look different in different places by different people in different times. Like cultural context is hugely important when we're talking about religious rulings and so forth. I'm not a scholar, but I do understand that from my work writing about Islam and researching Islam. And I mean, I've been researching Islam since 1998, so I think I can at least say that.
That's great. I'm happy you made that point. Some people really do not understand that. And in the library setting, sometimes I'm like, how are you in such a community-based field and do not know or understand the difference between culture and religion? I think that that is such a disadvantage to so many
Hmm.
people when it's people like that in those types of positions, who have
Yeah,
the ability to really impact social justice or the lack thereof, and because they just don't understand the differences.
yeah. And I think that comes from a place of, not to disparage anybody, but there are people who have never unpacked the different parts of their own identity. I was taught this, I do this, I am this, and it's all a package deal, right? But once you step outside of your context and look, okay, well, I'm American Christian. Well, there are also Mexican Christians, and they have a different cultural context than me. I think that even just that little bit can help. And I think that it is sad that that doesn't happen as much, but maybe that can be the impetus, learning that, Muslims are so diverse and varied that we can open our field of vision for everyone.
Mhm. So something else that you brought up in your book, which is always tends to be brought up very often, is
Mm.
the rights of women,
I knew immediately you were going to say that.
or the place of women, however you want to look at it. But you address the topic of women's rights in Islam, and you challenge common misconceptions. Can you share some insights on this topic and how it can be approached in a way that promotes greater understanding?
Hmm. I will do my best. So I think that the foundation has to be always men and women are twin halves of the same soul. And we are helpers to one another, right? We may have different strengths and weaknesses, and not that is not to say all men have certain strengths and all women have certain weaknesses, but we find each other, we live in a society, and we can like complement each other. I think what has happened is that the story of our faith and even our religious texts have been told through the story of men, as most of history has. And so, like, the representation of women and their experience and context has been left out of the story a lot. Not entirely. Of course, we have, Aisha, we have Aisha and Khadija, but I think that the female scholars throughout the ages have been lost. I think talking about the female perspective and the importance of having that at the table of discussion of the avenues in which we go and the rulings in which we make is incredibly important, and it is lost a lot.
Mhm.
And I think that comes, unfortunately, through allowing other faiths to overlay our faith. Like we look at uh, text through a Christian context, through a Jewish context. Sometimes we do that, and that has been something that's crept into those faiths, misogyny. And so it's important for us to remove that lens.
Mhm.
And I think that is the same problem that we're having with representation of Muslims as a whole. Like, we're not the dominant culture. We're not the people who write the story. So the same thing that happens to women. We're not, the people who write the story. So it's important for us to be represented and to be known so that people can know we're not a monolith and we're not, um, we're not two-dimensional characters. We're all different and special and unique. And just because men have certain responsibilities doesn't mean that they're better. There are a lot of hadith, I think, unfortunately, that have been translated into English or other languages with a tinge of misogynistic views. And it is so easy to take that and run with it because this is the first sin that has happened, right? The shaitan decided he was better than Adam.
Yes. Yes.
And now we continue that mistake over and over and over again. I'm better than that person. I'm better than that person. And what that absolves us from is being better than who we were yesterday. It's easier to be better than that person than to be better than who I was yesterday. But that is the struggle.
Yes. So you mentioned several times about things getting lost. What word would you use to describe the impact of not having books like the New Muslim Field Guide accessible to the public? Um, for many, all of the many levels and layers that's discussed in this book, to not have, for public libraries to not, or libraries are just accessible to the public, to not have a book
Mm-hmm.
like this easily accessible, how would you describe the impact?
That is a good question. I would just describe the impact as one that handicaps us.
Mm,
We have part of the picture and we're limping along with an incomplete story.
mm,
And I think that we can be better. And the point of being critical of who we are as a Muslim people, as American people, as Western people, as libraries, right, is so that we can be better. It's not because we hate it, it's because we love it, right? So that we can be better than who we were yesterday. And that should always be the trajectory. Not, oh, like, don't be critical. That's such an immature view. Being critical is negative. It is, as long as it's a constructive criticism, right?
yes.
Like, we can do better, we can be better, and here are the ways.
Mhm. So, I sometimes wonder how many librarians are using critical librarianship theory. That
I
space
wonder.
to, yeah, that space to reflect on the goals of libraries and librarians, which normally is to give knowledge, to assist with learning, all of these things. But if that information is not accurate or even equitable, it causes more damage than good sometimes. And that
Mm-hmm.
critical librarianship theory allows a space for librarians to reflect on how well they're actually achieving the said goal. Um, but in your book, you included a Dear Family letter, which offers guidance on how to approach loved ones about the decisions of converting to Islam. What inspired you to include this letter specifically in your book, and what benefits do you think it could offer new Muslims?
Um, we decided to include this. Actually, we excluded something that I regret now, and I'll tell you. My sister wrote a letter to me about what she feared would happen and how it ended up being okay. Like, and I'm still me and we're still sisters. I regret not including that, but we did include this because I think it's so important. Um, not everybody has, not everybody's a good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I'm the best communicator, but I think Allah has given me a skill to convey emotion and, context and all these things in a way that people can understand. Hopefully, I'm hoping. People paid me to do it, and they did so for a while, so I'm guessing. um, so I just felt like if you don't even know where to start, how to explain your feelings, and how you want to approach this is like an easy shortcut. I know that like the place of emotion and the place of writing are two different places of the brain, and they have a hard time connecting. So like to give people an easier way to approach that. And it may not be a perfect letter for everyone and you can make tweaks. Think of it like AI. It's spin out a thing for you to do, but like tweak it to your situation. I hope it is helpful to people to not make the mistakes that I made and to be able to have that framework to approach their family.
Nice. So, do you think that you and your family's journey would have been different if you had a book like yours before you took your Shahada?
I think maybe, but I wouldn't want it because I like where I am with my family.
Nice.
Yeah. Allah's path for me was great. And then would I have ever written that to help other people? Probably not. So like, alhamdulillah, I'm not going to, as I get so old, I stop regretting things and start looking at them in the right perspective.
Mm.
Like, then X, Y, and Z wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't be who I am or where I'm at. So yeah.
Okay. So, given your experiences and the topics that's covered in your book, what are your thoughts about having a resource such as the New Muslim Field Guide? I consider it to be a resource. So you still believe that it can make, even though you may not have had it personally and you don't regret not having it, do you still feel that it can make a positive impact for someone else?
I do. I do. And not just for the intended audience. Like, what I've discovered in the past, what's almost like 8 years, almost 8 years since we published, is that non-Muslims are reading it too. Like even people who don't know Muslims, they're like, "Wow, it's so eye-opening." And like we've had people come to us and say, "I'm a Christian. I read your book, and I just want to say that it's made me a better Christian and makes me want to be a more religious person." Not just for and like that's great and wonderful that people want to get closer to God as a result of that. But I think that there is a greater and bigger audience here for people who could help in different ways, like understanding the complexities of culture and religion, understanding people who maybe think different or practice different faiths than you, um, maybe helping people on their own spiritual journey, even if it is outside of the Islamic context. So yeah, I do think it would be hugely helpful in spaces like public libraries where people can freely access it. Um, Oftentimes the books that we read have greater outcomes than we expect. For example, I'm reading The Humans right now, and it is just so insightful on like the human experience. Like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah. I think literature in general, across the board, I think it impacts us, like you said, more than you may think sometimes. Even if it's not something that you'll keep and say, "Oh, I'm going to do this now," but it is
hmm
something to be a little bit more understanding of other people, and that's the
right,
whole concept of the mirrors, windows, sliding glass door concept. You don't have to personally, be a certain way or add or removing certain things in your life that you've read, but it does help have more understanding of other people, which decreases the fear. And so when there's a
right, right.
lack of books or a lack of access to literature that represents diverse groups of people, it just solidifies people's fear because
hmm
people fear what they don't know, or if they're receiving information that might not be accurate. And that's
hmm
another thing. So, or they're only hearing one side, something that was on the
Right,
news.
right.
Like you said, your family was like, oh wait, this is right after 9/11. What is going on?
Yeah, yeah,
So if that's the only information that they have about it, they would rightfully be concerned. You know.
right. There's
So.
definitely an information gap, and I think that as Muslims we have to own that.
Mhm.
People who have come to this minority Muslim country, they have a huge responsibility here to accept that that information gap is because of them, because of us. Say that. Um, and what fills an information gap is always fear, it's always misinformation, it's always disinformation, and that's a problem. So having this type of literature builds empathy,
Mhm.
and not just for Muslims, for people who are of different, just different, right? If you can understand, oh, I thought this about this person, you can extrapolate that to other people. Like, but now my view is different.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and I think we need to own that, and we need to do better.
Yes.
Like, we can't just sit around and say, oh, the librarians, like, yes, they have some responsibility and culpability in this, but so do we,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Yes. No, and that's what the Islamic Library Association is about. You know, highlighting works like yours and other Muslims, and getting it all in one collective place, and highlight it and make it accessible instead of it sitting in our own different silos wherever we may be, opposed to
Right.
everyone having access, whether it's other Muslims or people who are not Muslim. And also, we are part of communities. No matter where we are, we're part of communities. So we should actually be seen in the communities.
Yes.
And for example, there could be kids at someone's school, some Muslim kids at a school, and that kid might not have any Muslim family or something, but they
Mm.
have a Muslim kid in their school. They might not know what it is about. Now they may become friends and things like that, but what about the parents? The parents say, "Oh, well, don't, we're not that." You might not be Muslim, but that's where again that literature comes in, so you don't have to be afraid. you know,
Mm-hmm.
because fear creates, it actually turns into bigger problems. You know, other
Yes.
just major.
Policy problems.
Yes. Policy problems, and sometimes, yes, we all know that there's a lot that just goes on, um, that's not safe, because people fear people
Yeah,
that they don't know.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So your work thus far, between your blogging and your writing and everything that you do, where can people find your work since it's not yet nationwide in public libraries? Um, where can people find your work?
My books are sold on Amazon, unfortunately. Trying to find a better platform, but like, I only can do what I can with what I have.
Hmm.
Um, I've also written for aboutislam.net, so you can find a lot of my work there, islamwitch.com. I don't publish anymore, but everything I've written for that blog is still up. The work I'm most proud of after my books is Al Juma magazine. It's a more academic before I became an academic, so you can find Al Juma magazine as well. And I have written a few pieces for CNN and Washington Post.
Nice. So, lastly, um, what message would you like to convey to readers, of the New Muslims Field Guide, and what hopes do you have for the impact it can have on the Muslim community, um, and beyond?
That is a big question. I would just like to ask anybody who reads the book to make dua for me and forgive me for all my mistakes in it, grammatical and otherwise. It's self-published and we did our best, okay, guys, calm down. Um, uh, I hope that it can help people not only understand the new Muslims' perspective, but also help new Muslims learn and help people who are coming as born into the faith and grown up in the faith come to understand different parts of identity. I've had a lot of people who are born into Muslim families say that they've read it and it's been so impactful to them. A lot of people take it wholesale, culture and faith, and will actually leave the faith thinking that the oppressive parts of the culture are the religion. I hope that helps them as well. I hope it helps people embrace their identity. Allah has made us so diverse and so unique, even within our families, even, on different days. I'm a different person on different days. Just embrace that about yourself. Like, use that to have good character, but like, don't throw yourself away thinking that, oh, because I'm X, Y, and Z, I'm not the perfect Muslim. Like, what even, that's not even a thing. So get over it. Yeah. I hope that it doesn't harm anyone is my major dua. Like, I don't want harm to come to anyone from my words. That is heavy on my heart. Like, publishing anything, you have to understand that it is a huge responsibility. Um, so please forgive me.
Oh, that's so lovely, mashallah. Well, may Allah continue to reward you, and continue to bless you and all that you
I mean,
do. And I believe that it will help many people. As I said in the beginning, that for myself, being born and raised in a Muslim family, to read this book was, there's still always something to learn. We're never going to know everything. So I think that your book is amazing. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And that's all I have for you. I really appreciate your time. And is there anything else that you would just like to add?
Yes, I would like to say thank you for all the great work that you do. I know that you're a busy lady and you have a lot on your plate. So, like, this is a huge barakah to the Muslim community in America. Like, libraries are the central focal point of every community. And to not have Islamic literature in libraries is a huge loss. And to be able to say, like, we're working on it is like such a relief to my heart to know you and know that you're working on it and just like whatever I can do to help.
Mashallah. I really appreciate that. But I say every time, I can't do what I do if the authors weren't writing. You know,
Alhamdulillah.
you all are writing. Everybody should have access to what you do because
Truly.
it's good work. You're talking about, oh, it's self-published. It's great. So everybody who's listening, that the book is great. Um, it's really good. I really hope you all check it out. Check out Miss Theresa Corbin's work, and that's all I have. So I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right,
Inshallah.
assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum.
Join the Islamic Library Association, and together we can shape a more inclusive future for literature.